I've decided we need a prenup. Everything stays separate, my fiancée declared. I grinned, then dropped my own news. I'd already pulled my name from the house deposit we'd agreed on. The look on her parents' faces was priceless. All right, Reddit, you'll need to get some popcorn because this one goes wild real quick. I need you to read the whole thing. The ending is definitely worth it. I'm Sean, 32 male, sitting here in my apartment, surrounded by boxes of wedding stuff that'll never see daylight. And honestly, I feel better than I have in years. The past few weeks have been wild, and I need to get this off my chest. Let me paint you the picture. I'd been with Kelsey for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. She's 30, works as an event planner pulling in about $65,000 a year. Me? Commercial pilot making around $140,000. Not trying to flex here, just setting the stage so you understand the financial dynamics. Kelsey's one of those types who's always got everything planned out. Color-coordinated everything. Spreadsheets for grocery shopping. The whole package. She's also got this thing where she loves to feel like the smartest person in the room. You know the type. Always has some scheme she thinks is genius. Should have been my first red flag, but love makes you stupid sometimes. The woman had an expensive taste, but somehow always expected me to cover the difference. Fancy restaurants where she'd order the most expensive thing, then slide the check my way. Weekend trips that somehow became my treat. Designer handbags that were investments, but always came out of my wallet. Looking back, there were other red flags I ignored, like how she'd get mysterious text messages during dinner and claim it was work emergencies, or how she started hitting the gym religiously around month 2. She'd disappear for girls' nights that lasted until 3 a.m. But the biggest red flag? She started locking her phone around month 6. Used to leave it lying around. Now it's face down with a passcode she changed monthly. When I mentioned it, she got defensive. I need privacy, Sean. Boundaries are healthy. Right. Boundaries with your fiancé, but not with whoever was texting you at midnight. We'd been house hunting for months because apparently renting was throwing money away. Every weekend, we're driving around looking at places, her taking notes like she's conducting business deals. She had this vision of us in some perfect starter home, white picket fence, the whole suburban dream. The thing is, I actually like the idea. Building something together, having a place that was ours. So when we found this house 3 weeks ago, I was genuinely excited. It was a solid place, needed some work, but the bones were good, and the location was prime. $420,000, which in today's market isn't terrible. We needed to put down 20% to avoid PMI. That's $84,000 total. The split we worked out seemed fair. I'd cover $50,000 from money I'd been saving for years. She would contribute $34,000. Her parents were gifting her $30,000, and she had $4,000 saved up. The ownership split would reflect our contributions. 62-38 in my favor. Made sense, right? Person who puts in more gets more. We signed the purchase agreement, and both our funds were supposed to go to escrow. But here's where things got interesting. Kelsey said she was working on getting her parents' transfer sorted out. No rush, she said. We had time. Meanwhile, I was ready to transfer my $50,000 immediately. My buddy Jason from work kept warning me. Jason had been through a nasty divorce where his ex tried similar nonsense. So he had a sixth sense for this stuff. Sean, man, watch how she talks about money. That's not partner talk. I brushed him off. Jason was just bitter from his divorce, right? Wrong. Jason was the only one paying attention while I was walking into a trap. Last Sunday, Kelsey's parents invited us for dinner. Should have known something was up when her mom Janet went full Martha Stewart mode. Elaborate feast, fancy drinks, the works. Her dad Gerald was being extra friendly. These people lived in an $800,000 house, but somehow always seemed to be cash poor when it came to actually contributing to anything. Janet drove a brand new BMW but would split dinner checks down to the penny. Gerald owned a small accounting firm and loved to lecture people about financial responsibility. The whole dinner felt like a setup. Kelsey kept giving me weird looks, like she was holding back some big secret. Her parents kept exchanging glances. What I didn't know was that earlier that week, I'd gotten a little too close to the truth. I'd picked up Kelsey's phone by mistake when mine was charging. Same black case, same spot on the counter. The screen lit up with a text notification. Can't wait to see you Tuesday. Wear the red dress I like from someone named Zach. Vendor. When I asked her about it later, she laughed it off. Oh, that's my flower vendor. Don't worry, Sean. He's super flamboyant. Always complimenting my outfits. But since when do flower vendors text about specific dresses? That text had been eating at me all week. So I'd done a little digging and discovered that our mortgage lender required both parties to transfer funds before they could issue final approval. I also learned that I could withdraw from the purchase within the contract's inspection period without penalty. So I'd quietly prepared the paperwork to remove myself as a buyer, just in case. Halfway through dinner, Kelsey taps her glass like she's about to make some grand announcement. I'm thinking maybe she found the perfect venue or finally picked out bridesmaid dresses. Instead, she drops this bomb. Sean, I've been doing a lot of thinking about our future and I've made a decision. I think we need a prenup. Everything stays separate. What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. Simple and clean. I literally stopped mid-bite. Here's this woman who's about to use my money to buy a house, and now she wants legal protection from my finances? The timing was so perfectly calculated. Gerald jumps in immediately. Smart move, Kelsey. No offense, Sean, but protecting assets is just good planning. You pilots make decent money, but you never know what could happen with medical certificates or industry changes. None taken, I said, setting down my fork. I understand the concept. Kelsey gets this smug little smile. I knew you'd be reasonable about this. You're so practical. We keep our finances completely separate, file taxes separately, and if anything ever happens, we each walk away with what we brought to the relationship. Even the house? I asked. Well, no. The house would be joint property. We're both going on the deed. And there it was. The house, funded 62% by me, would be split 50-50, but everything else stays separate. She wanted to have her cake and eat it too. Protection from my debts and obligations, but equal access to the asset I was primarily funding. Janet chimed in. It's not about trust, Sean. It's about being smart. Kelsey's worked so hard to build her career and savings. Her career and savings. The woman had $4,000 to her name and lived paycheck to paycheck despite making decent money. Interesting timing, I said, pulling out my phone. When exactly did you decide this? Oh, I've been thinking about it for weeks. My friend Andrea's divorce was such a nightmare. I just want to avoid that kind of mess. Weeks. She'd been planning this ambush for weeks while I was preparing to transfer $50,000 into escrow. See, that Zach vendor text had been eating at me all week. So I'd done a little digging. Zach wasn't a vendor at all. He was a personal trainer at the gym Kelsey had been hitting religiously. And according to his very public Instagram, he wasn't gay, as she claimed. Dude was posting thirst traps with captions about finding his queen and real men don't share. I'd also started paying attention to her patterns. Those Tuesday vendor meetings, they lined up perfectly with Zach's schedule at the gym. Those late-night girls' nights, her friends had been posting their own activities on social media, and Kelsey wasn't in any of the pictures. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, this timing is absolutely perfect. What do you mean? She asked, and I could hear the first note of uncertainty creeping into her voice. Since you want everything separate, I already prepared the amendment removing me as a buyer. I'm executing it right now. I pulled up the digital contract portal and clicked submit. The silence that followed was deafening. Janet was the first to speak. What do you mean withdrawing? I just executed the amendment removing me as buyer. Escrow will process the release and return my $50,000 per the contract terms. I showed them the confirmation screen on my phone, and watching Kelsey's face drain of color was honestly worth every awkward second of that dinner. You can't do that, Kelsey said, her voice climbing an octave. Gerald's tone shifted real quick. But we already sent Kelsey the money. That was contingent on the house purchase. Then she can buy the house herself. Her credit, her income, her house. Clean and simple, just like she wanted. I can't qualify for a $420,000 mortgage on my salary, Kelsey said, panic starting to set in. Then maybe look for something cheaper. Market's got plenty of options. Or maybe Zach can help you out. The color drained from her face. Janet and Gerald looked confused, but Kelsey knew exactly what I meant. Who's Zach? Gerald asked. Ask your daughter, I said, not breaking eye contact with Kelsey. I'm sure she can explain her relationship with her vendor. That's when things got really interesting. Janet stands up. This is financial coercion. You led us to believe you were committed to this purchase. No, this is me honoring Kelsey's request for completely separate finances. And apparently, separate relationships too. Gerald tried to pull the intimidation card, stepping closer. You think you're clever, but you just made a very expensive enemy, son. I think I just saved myself from a very expensive mistake. And probably an STD test. Kelsey was full-on panicking now. I need that $50,000. The mortgage application was based on both our incomes. But you just said what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. Besides, maybe your personal trainer can spot you the cash. That's for after we're married. So you want access to my money now, but protection from my obligations later? How convenient. The room exploded. Kelsey started ugly crying. Janet was demanding explanations about Zach. Gerald was threatening lawsuits. They'll sue you, Kelsey sobbed between gasps. No, they'll sue you, I corrected. My name's not on the documents anymore. Your signature is still there, just like your names on those hotel receipts I found in your car. That last line was a bluff, but her reaction told me everything. She went white as a sheet and started stammering denials. Janet and Gerald were looking at their daughter like they were seeing her for the first time. I stood up, straightened my jacket, and said, "Thanks for dinner. And Kelsey, you might want to get tested. I know I will." Then I walked out. By the time I got home, I had confirmation emails waiting. The escrow company had processed my withdrawal, and the lender had already sent Kelsey an email revoking their mortgage pre-approval, since I was no longer on the application. Jason was waiting in my driveway with drinks and a knowing grin. "How'd it go?" he asked. "She tried to prenup her way into keeping my money while protecting hers. And she's been cheating with her personal trainer." "Well, that's interesting. Tell me more." We had drinks and watched the sunset while my phone buzzed with increasingly frantic texts. I didn't read a single one, but Jason did peek at a few and started laughing. "Dude, she's losing her mind. 20 texts in 10 minutes, all different excuses about this Zach guy." I turned my phone off completely. Didn't respond. My phone exploded after dinner. 67 texts in the first hour alone. Kelsey, her parents, even some of her friends who'd apparently been recruited for emotional warfare. I ignored every single one, but Jason was having a field day reading them. "Listen to this nonsense," he said, scrolling through screenshots I'd forwarded him. "She's claiming Zach is just a friend who helps with her workouts, and that you're paranoid and controlling." Wow. The next morning brought even better intel. Jason had been having drinks with some mutual acquaintances the night before, and apparently Kelsey's affair had been an open secret among her circle for months. She'd been bringing Zach to group events when I was working overnight flights, introducing him as her workout buddy. She'd been even bragging about her genius prenup plan at these same events, calling me her personal ATM with wings, and saying she was going to get me to fund most of the house while protecting her family's money through the prenup. The friends said she'd been laughing about how predictable and easy to manipulate I was, how I never fought back on anything, and was so trusting it was almost pathetic. Well, this naive guy just schooled her in consequences. Jason had more intel that made my blood boil. Turns out Kelsey had been using our relationship as cover for her affair for months. She'd tell people I was working, easy excuse since pilots have irregular schedules, when she was really off with Zach. The next few days were comedy gold. Kelsey was running around trying to secure a $420,000 mortgage on her $65,000 salary, while also trying to convince everyone that her affair was just a friendship. She hit up banks, credit unions, even some sketchy online lenders. The best she could qualify for was around $200,000, and that was with her parents co-signing. Meanwhile, Zach was apparently not handling the drama well. One of the gym regulars told Jason that Zach got confronted by some guy claiming to be the girl's fiancé, and Zach looked like he was about to lose his mind. Apparently, he thought Kelsey was single. When he found out Kelsey was engaged and had been using him to cheat, he blocked her on everything and transferred to a different gym. He wanted nothing to do with her. The house was gone, along with the $5,000 earnest money, along with her side piece. Smooth. Her parents were absolutely livid. But here's the kicker. They weren't mad at Kelsey for cheating or trying to scam me. They were mad at me for not just rolling over and taking it. The way they tried to make me the villain when their daughter was a cheating gold digger was honestly impressive. Gerald actually showed up at the airport Monday morning. Picture this. Grown man in his 60s, red-faced and spitting mad, trying to get past TSA to confront a pilot. Airport security shut that down real quick, but not before he made a scene in the terminal. My chief pilot, Captain Esparza, called me into his office with a bemused expression. "Sean, want to explain why some angry accountant tried to storm our crew briefing room this morning? He was screaming something about you destroying his family's reputation." I gave him the short version. He just shook his head and laughed. 20 years flying, and the craziest stories always involve money and women. Airport security flagged him. He's banned from the property now. But Sean, good for you for not marrying that train wreck. That afternoon, I got a call from airport police. Gerald had filed a harassment complaint against me, claiming I was terrorizing his family with financial abuse and slander. The officer who took the report barely kept a straight face while reading it back to me. "So let me get this straight," the cop said. "You withdrew from buying a house with your cheating fiancée after she demanded a prenup?" And that's harassment? Apparently so. Well, I've got some bad news for your ex-future father-in-law. Backing out of a real estate deal isn't a crime. Neither is disagreeing with a prenup or calling out cheaters. But making false police reports is. No charges were filed, but Gerald got a nice little warning about wasting police resources. Tuesday brought a new approach. Kelsey sent her friend Courtney to play mediator. We met at this coffee shop downtown, and Courtney came armed with what she thought was a reasonable compromise. She's willing to negotiate, Courtney said. Prenup stays, but the house ownership reflects actual contributions. That was the original plan, I said, before she decided she needed protection from my finances while exploring other options. Look, she admits the timing was bad, and she swears nothing physical happened with Zach. I pulled out my phone and showed Courtney the screenshots Jason had collected from social media. Zach and Kelsey at restaurants I'd never been to. Zach and Kelsey at a wine tasting I'd supposedly been too busy to attend. A particularly damning one of them at a hotel lobby during one of her vendor meetings. Courtney's face went white. She said you were being paranoid. Does this look paranoid to you? Jesus, I thought. Courtney trailed off, staring at the photos. Look, she's willing to adjust the prenup terms, Courtney said weakly, trying to salvage her mission. Like how? Separate property stays separate, but joint investments like the house are actually joint, and she'll cut all contact with Zach. Yeah, that's exactly what she wanted from the beginning. My money with protection from my debts. Plus, she already lost Zach when he found out she was engaged. She said you could manage the investments since you're better with money. I had to laugh. She wanted my money, but was offering to let me manage the investments she couldn't afford to make. What's my upside in this deal, Courtney? You get to marry the woman you love. You mean the woman who called me her personal ATM with wings and cheated behind my back? Thanks, I'll skip. Her face went red. Come on! She was just venting to friends. Right. You're wasting your time and mine, Courtney. She left shortly after. But Kelsey wasn't done. Wednesday was when she decided to go nuclear with the public shaming campaign. She posted this long Facebook rant about how her dream home was stolen by a financially abusive man who couldn't handle a strong, independent woman. She painted herself as the victim, conveniently leaving out the parts where she'd tried to scam me out of $50,000 and cheated with her trainer. This is where my mom came into play. Mom's a retired family court judge who's seen every scam and manipulation tactic in the book. She'd been watching this drama unfold with growing disgust, and Kelsey's Facebook post was the last straw. Mom called me that evening. That girl has some nerve. This is a gold-digging cheater getting called out. She's trying to control the narrative. Well, I've got some connections in her industry. Event planning is a small world, especially here in town. And if she wants to play the victim, let's give people the full story. Mom made a few calls. Turns out Janet had been bragging to her book club about how clever Kelsey was being, getting the pilot to pay for everything while protecting her assets. One of the book club ladies happened to be married to the owner of the largest catering company in the area, a company Kelsey's firm worked with regularly. But Mom's nuclear option was even better. She had a friend who worked at the gym where Zach used to train. Within 24 hours, we had security camera footage timestamps showing Kelsey and Zach entering and leaving together, hotel receipts from her credit card, and even some text message screenshots that Zach had shared with friends before blocking her. The comments section on Kelsey's post were hilarious. People aren't stupid. They could read between the lines, especially when mutual friends started sharing screenshots. Wait, you wanted a prenup but expected him to pay more for the house? Separate finances but joint property? Make it make sense. Wait, is this the same Kelsey who was posting pictures with that trainer guy? That last comment was from someone I didn't even know. The post got absolutely destroyed, with people calling her out for cheating, lying, and trying to financially manipulate me. Kelsey deleted the whole thing within 2 hours, but screenshots are forever, and Jason had saved everything. Thursday brought the most desperate attempt yet. Gerald called my mom directly, trying to leverage the future family angle. Huge mistake. Mrs. Sullivan, Gerald said in his most condescending tone, I think we need to discuss your son's behavior. He's embarrassing our families with these accusations. Mr. Henderson, Mom replied coolly, I think we need to discuss your daughter's attempted fraud and adultery. Demanding separate finances while expecting joint assets is textbook manipulation. That's not what happened. I have screenshots of her social media posts bragging about manipulating my son's finances and security footage of her with her trainer. Would you like me to forward them to the State Board of Accountancy? I'm sure your professional reputation could handle such a scandal. The line went dead. Gerald never called back. But those people weren't done. Friday brought a surprise visit from Janet at my apartment complex's leasing office. She tried to convince the manager that I was dangerous and unstable and had threatened her daughter and shouldn't be allowed to renew my lease. The manager, Marla, called me immediately. Sean, some crazy lady is in my office trying to get you evicted. Says you're financially abusing her daughter and making threats. Want me to call the cops? When I arrived, Janet was still in the office, red-faced and gesticulating wildly. That man destroyed my daughter's life. He's dangerous and vindictive. Ma'am, Marla said patiently, you're describing someone I don't recognize. I walked in with my phone recording. Janet, what exactly am I supposed to have threatened? She started backpedaling immediately when she saw the recording. You know what you did. I withdrew from buying a house with your cheating daughter after she demanded a prenup. What part of that was threatening? Marla's eyebrows went up. Wait, your daughter was cheating? Janet fled immediately, but not before Marla got a good look at what kind of family I'd almost married into. Jesus, Sean, Marla said after Janet left. Sounds like you dodged a bullet. More like a nuclear missile. That's when I realized they were trying to sabotage every aspect of my life. I immediately froze my credit with all 3 bureaus and changed every password Kelsey had ever known. Then I called Jason. They're going scorched earth, I told him. Time to return the favor, he said. I've got an idea, and I think you're going to love what happened at Kelsey's work today. Friday afternoon brought a certified letter from Kelsey's lawyer. Apparently, I was being sued for $50,000 in detrimental reliance, breach of promise, and defamation of character. My lawyer read it and literally laughed. Then he dictated a response that was basically a legal middle finger, pointing out that no money was ever exchanged between the parties. Withdrawing from a real estate purchase before marriage is not breach of contract. Calling someone a cheater isn't defamation if it's true. And Kelsey's own text messages prove she wanted separate finances. But while the legal threat was laughable, Jason and I had been cooking up something much more satisfying. See, Jason had a contact at the event planning company where Kelsey worked. His cousin Andrea worked in their accounting department. Turns out Kelsey had been using company resources for way more than just our wedding. Company printers for personal invitations. Company time for vendor meetings. Charging personal expenses to the company credit card and forgetting to reimburse them. But the real kicker? She'd been using the company's corporate discount at the hotel, where she was meeting Zach for their afternoon workouts. Andrea had been documenting it all because it was affecting her reconciliation work. But when she found out about the affair, she dug deeper and found that Kelsey had been booking company conference rooms for client meetings that were actually phone sessions with Zach when I was on overnight flights. Jason also discovered that Kelsey had been bad-mouthing me to clients, telling them how she was going to upgrade her lifestyle when we got married. She'd even promised one major client that she could get them discounted charter flights through my connections, while simultaneously complaining that I was too controlling with money. The plan was beautiful. Andrea compiled all the evidence of Kelsey's company resource misuse, including credit card statements showing the hotel charges and phone records showing personal calls during work hours. Jason gathered screenshots of every social media post, plus the photos of her affair. Mom provided character references, highlighting my stability, and her concerns about Kelsey's manipulative behavior. But the nuclear option was something we hadn't even planned for. Zach, apparently feeling guilty about the whole situation once he learned the truth, had decided to come clean. He reached out through a mutual friend and provided text message screenshots showing Kelsey actively pursuing him and lying about her relationship status. We didn't have to do anything dramatic. We just sent an anonymous package to Kelsey's boss with all the evidence, along with a note about inappropriate use of company resources for personal gain, unprofessional conduct with clients, and potential liability issues. Monday morning, Kelsey got called into a disciplinary meeting. By noon, she was suspended pending investigation. By Friday, she was fired for misuse of company resources, unprofessional conduct, and creating liability exposure for the company. But the beautiful thing was, we never had to reveal it was us. The evidence spoke for itself. Meanwhile, the lawsuit fizzled out when Kelsey couldn't afford her lawyer anymore. Turns out legal revenge is expensive when you don't have a job and your parents have cut off your funding. The wedding vendor cancellations became their own special kind of karma. Kelsey had signed contracts for everything: venue, catering, flowers, photography, all non-refundable deposits, totaling over $16,000 that her parents had paid. When she tried to recover some money by threatening to leave bad reviews, several vendors pointed out that their contracts included clauses about defamation. She ended up losing every penny. Then the cherry on top came from an unexpected source. Remember that major client Kelsey had promised charter flight discounts to? They'd paid a significant deposit for their corporate event, expecting the discount she'd promised. When the event planning company fired Kelsey, they had to honor her commitments or face their own legal issues. The client demanded either the promised discount or a full refund. The company had to eat the cost, about $8,000, and they made sure everyone in the industry knew why. The girl's reputation in event planning was finished. The fallout from our breakup was ridiculous, but watching Kelsey spiral while I got my life back was entertaining. She tried to keep the wedding venue, apparently hoping I'd cave and come crawling back. When I didn't, she sent me an invoice for half the deposits, $8,000. I replied with her own words, "Everything separate." She lost those deposits. Another $16,000 down the drain, paid for by her parents. The engagement ring became its own saga. She refused to return it, claiming I'd disgraced her publicly, and it was compensation for emotional damage. Legally, in our state, an engagement ring is a conditional gift. No marriage, no ring. When she still wouldn't budge, I got my lawyer involved. She finally returned it after legal pressure, but not before making me sweat about whether I'd ever see that $8,000 investment again. But here's where Kelsey's spiral got really entertaining, and where my life took a turn that made the whole experience worth it. About 6 weeks after the breakup, I was at this aviation conference in Dallas. Work event, nothing exciting, just mandatory continuing education stuff. I'm at the hotel restaurant after a long day of seminars, and this absolutely stunning brunette sits down 2 tables over. We're talking drop-dead gorgeous, like the kind of woman who makes you forget your own name. Natural beauty, no Instagram filter nonsense, just genuinely beautiful. Her name was Raina, smart as heck, funny, and when she mentioned she was there for a medical conference, we started talking about traveling for work. Turns out she'd always been curious about aviation, and I found myself genuinely enjoying explaining the technical side of flying. We ended up talking until the restaurant closed, and I got her number. She lived in Dallas, but we started texting constantly. She was working crazy hours at the hospital. I was flying all over the country, but somehow we made it work. 3 months later, Raina got offered a position at a hospital here in town. She'd been looking to leave Dallas anyway, but the timing was perfect. By then, we were talking every day, and I was using my flight benefits to visit her whenever possible. Meanwhile, Kelsey's life was falling apart. Without a job and living back with her parents, she decided to launch a lifestyle blog about overcoming financial abuse and toxic relationships. The irony was lost on her completely. The blog failed because nobody wants life advice from someone living in their parents' basement after losing her job for fraud and adultery. Her other ventures were even worse. Jason showed me screenshots of her trying to promote them on dating apps with captions like, "supporting myself," after escaping financial abuse. Speaking of dating apps, Kelsey's new dating profile was comedy gold. She was looking for a real man who isn't intimidated by a successful woman and must be financially secure and generous. Meanwhile, Raina and I were building something real. She insisted on splitting everything: dinners, groceries, even gas when we took road trips together. When I offered to fly her somewhere for vacation, she researched the actual cost of tickets and insisted on paying me back. She worked 60-hour weeks saving lives and still found time to cook dinner when I got back from long flights. She was everything Kelsey pretended to be, and she wanted to build something together. Now comes the satisfying part. The grand finale of Kelsey's Shid Show, where she finally met Raina. It came 8 months later at Jason's birthday party. We'd rented out this upscale sports bar, about 30 people, good food, craft drinks, the works. Raina was there looking absolutely stunning in this black dress. I'm at the bar with Jason and a few other guys when Jason goes quiet and nods toward the entrance. "Dude, your ex just walked in." I turned around and honestly didn't recognize her at first. Kelsey looked like she'd been through a blender. She'd put on at least 20 pounds wearing some cheap outfit that screamed clearance rack. She wasn't supposed to be there. Jason sure as heck didn't invite her, and she'd burned bridges with most of our mutual friends months ago. But there she was, scanning the room like a predator. Her eyes locked on mine from across the room, then shifted to Raina, who was laughing with some of the other girls. The look on Kelsey's face was pure hatred. "This should be interesting," Jason said, pulling out his phone. "I'm definitely recording this." Kelsey started making her way over, pushing through people without excusing herself. Raina noticed her first and came over to stand next to me, because she could sense drama coming. "Sean," Kelsey said loudly, completely ignoring everyone else. "We need to talk. Now." "No, we don't," I said calmly, taking a sip of my drink. "Yes, we do. This whole thing has gone on long enough. I know you still love me." The entire group had gone quiet. Jason was recording. Raina just stood there with this amused expression, like she was watching a reality TV show. Kelsey, you need to leave, I said. I'm not leaving until you listen to me. Her voice was getting louder. You think you're so much better now with your little girlfriend? But she doesn't know you like I do. You're right, Raina said sweetly. I don't know Sean like you do. I've never had to check his bank account balance before deciding if I love him. The guys behind me started snickering. Kelsey's face went red. Shut up! This doesn't concern you. Wrong move. Actually, since he's my fiancé, it kind of does concern me. That's when Kelsey completely lost it. Fiancé? You've been together for what, 6 months? I was with him for 3 years. And in those 3 years, you cheated and tried to steal his money, Jason chimed in. Great relationship. Really solid foundation there. I never cheated, she screamed, loud enough that the entire bar was now staring. Zach was just a friend. One of Jason's friends, who'd been documenting Kelsey's social media meltdowns for months, pulled out his phone. Isn't this you posting about your workout, buddy? He showed her a screenshot of one of her old Instagram posts with Zach. Kelsey lunged for the phone, but Jason stepped between them. Nah, you're not doing that. Ah, Sean, please, she said, tears starting to flow. Look at what you're doing to me. I lost my job. I lost my apartment. My parents won't even talk to me anymore. This is all your fault. Your fault for cheating, I said, for trying to scam me. I never scammed you. She was full-on ugly crying now. You don't understand. I was scared. I just wanted to protect myself. The whole bar erupted in laughter. Even the bartender was shaking his head. Kelsey spun around to face the crowd. This isn't funny. He destroyed my life. No, said one of the wives. We all heard the stories. That's when Kelsey made her final desperate play. I shid you not. This woman got down on her knees right there in the middle of the bar. Sean, please. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll sign whatever prenup you want. I'll never ask for money. I'll be whatever you need me to be. The silence was so awkward. 30 people watching this train wreck beg on her knees in a public bar like she's auditioning for a soap opera. This was definitely going to be on TikTok. I looked down at her, then at Raina, who was trying not to laugh. Then I looked at Jason, who was grinning. Kelsey, I said loud enough for everyone to hear, I wouldn't take you back if you were the last woman on earth and came with $1 billion dowry. The bar erupted. People were laughing, clapping. Some dude yelled, "Dang!" from across the room. Kelsey was still on her knees, sobbing hysterically. You piece of garbage! You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not seeing through your nonsense sooner. Security finally showed up and dragged her out while she screamed about how I'd pay for this and how Raina was just a home-wrecking witch. After she was gone, random people were coming up to congratulate me on handling that psycho. Jason was already uploading videos to the group chat with captions like, "When keeping it real goes wrong." But the best part was Raina's reaction. She wasn't upset, wasn't jealous, and wasn't demanding explanations. She just looked at me and said, well, that was better than Netflix. Should we go home and plan our wedding? 6 months later, Raina and I had the most beautiful wedding, paid for equally by 2 adults who actually love each other. Kelsey wasn't there, obviously, but apparently she'd seen the photos on social media because I got one final text. She'll never love you like I did. I showed it to Raina on our honeymoon in Italy. She laughed and said, thank God for that. The video of Kelsey's meltdown went viral in our local social media circles. She became a cautionary tale about what happens when gold diggers get called out. Last I heard, she'd moved to another state to start fresh, but was still posting bitter rants about men who can't handle strong women, because clearly the problem is everyone else. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting crazy people destroy themselves while you watch with a drink and a gorgeous fiancé who actually loves you for who you are. I dodged a bullet and found my perfect co-pilot instead. Win-win. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.